Welcome to the From Guilt to Good podcast, where we discuss all the things caregivers wish people would talk about, but don't, won't, or can't. Hi, my name is Jeanette Yates. I'm the founder of The Self Caregiver. I cared for my own mother for several decades and now help caregivers set boundaries and use simple tools that make care and life easier so they can feel good, not guilty. In today's episode, I am excited to introduce you to my new Caregiver Talk friend, Jazmyn Rivers. We connected on TikTok, and I loved her openness and honesty in the way she shares her journey and what she learns along the way. Today's conversation will be just that, a chat between two caregivers. We'll discuss the importance of finding your community, often overlooked caregiving family dynamics, and even squeeze in a little bit of tech talk at the end. Jazmyn, thank you so much for joining me today. Man, it's been our friendship has been a whirlwind already. One phone call and a podcast already. Here we go.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So I always start off every episode with asking caregivers to share like their caregiving story. Who do you care for? How did you get there? All that kind of stuff. Tell us how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm relatively new to the official caregiving journey. So I started in officially in November full time, taking care of my grandparents. Lovingly call them Nana and Papa. So they're in their early 80s, so late 70s, early 80s. They do not have official diagnoses as far as Alzheimer's or specific dementias or anything like that, but there is some memory difficulties and just kind of organizational, like just daily life stuff that they're needing more help with, mobility, things like that. So it really happened after a hospital visit that kind of revealed some more just needing more help. I think we get to a point as we age that we're needing more support
Yeah.
in our life stuff or physical stuff. And my family kind of took a step back, looked at what needs were, I guess, needed for them, and figured that I was in a space in my career that I could kind of it was a little bit of a crossroads, I guess,
Yeah.
for my career. And this is the direction that myself, my husband, and my family kind of took. So my grandparents were able to have the support they need.
One of the things that I really loved when you told me this when we were talking before, and part of the reason I wanted to have you on this podcast is because your family coming together to figure this out together is a story that honestly we don't often hear in the caregiver space. And no situation is perfect. This is a difficult transition for everyone. It's complicated, all of those things. But the way that you got together, your family got together, assessed the new needs that your grandparents had. So they, like you said, sometimes it's, I remember my great grandmother living with my grandmother and my great aunts and all that. And it was just like she was there, but like, she gave herself her baths and, like did all that, but she just needed a little extra attention and another set of eyeballs. Right. So it started like that. But then, of course, things happen, and to have your family come together and say, okay, things have changed. There's going to need to be more support here. You already had some family members contributing in the ways that they could, but there was this new need and for more support and another set of eyeballs, and you were able to step in. Is there anything that you want to share about how your family communicates with each other about your grandparents' needs, or what has worked for you guys as far as making sure everybody stays in the loop and feels connected even if they're not on the ground every day?
Yeah, so I think as first of all, I'm very fortunate to have a family that kind of puts all their hands in, and we really play to the strengths of each individual. So like my brother's really good at the technology piece. So
Yes.
if he's able to support that way, that's how he
Hmm.
contributes.
Contributes, right?
It really is I'm really thankful for that. As far as keeping people in the loop and just making sure that we're all on the same page is definitely trial and error.
Right.
But something that we're, I guess, trying lately is to have kind of weekly or bi-weekly check-ins with each
Mm,
other. So kind of on top of the like family dinners and things like that, where people are able to just share a meal and catch up, make memories.
mhm.
I meet with my mom weekly and just go over kind of what the week is looking like, what their needs are. And then we have group chats that we try to contribute to. So that's kind of the best way that we've noticed just with, I mean, technology is
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
and it's a lifesaver when it comes to, shooting a text over here or
Yeah.
there to keep everybody in the loop.
I love what you said too about you're having these check-ins, these regular check-ins with, either the people in the group chat or your mother who is your partner in
Yeah.
this effort with your grandparents. Um and but these check-ins are separate from the let's just be together as a family.
Hmm.
There I think that is so important. And I know in my own journey, of course, I was the only one doing the the primary, the caregiving. She did have some I always want to acknowledge, her friends that came over and fixed dinner and the ones that did grocery shopping for her, certainly. But I remember when things were getting so tough, I would go over to do the things I needed to do for my mom, but I was not trying to hang out there. I was not trying to spend time like no, like not that I wasn't trying to, but like I just was so I was like, what do you need? What can I do? I'd bring the kids over, let them play while I did the things, and we're out of there. And, that wasn't working for either one of us. We had gone from being very, very close and super, supportive and loved hanging out with each other to just it being like exhausting and, you know, fraught with frustration and busyness and not that quality time. So setting up a way to make sure what I did was okay, when I'm coming in during the week, I'm going to do the things I need to do. But then on Saturdays, that's your day.
Hmm.
We're, you know, taking our time, doing whatever we need, like we're just whatever you want to do is and spending that time doing the things that she loved and sharing stories with each other and like you said making memories. So I do think that's so important. I'm glad you brought that up. So, like I mentioned in the interview, I found you on TikTok, or you
Yeah.
found me, who knows? And I was immediately drawn to your content because it's, you're just so open. But yet I feel like you have a sense of, like, I can tell you're being very intentional about it. So that's why I was drawn to your content. But before I get to talking about what you share and why you share it, I want to hear, what brought you to TikTok? Were you already on there for work or for fun, and then how did you transition into that the caregiving TikTok or care talk space?
Yeah. So I kind of dabbled in TikTok a little bit more as a content consumer than a content
Yes.
creator. Learned a little bit here and there for my previous roles in corporate nonprofit world, but kind of my transition to content creation, giver content, I really just kind of got to the point where this was a new transition from kind of, I think we have this like cultural thing,
Mhm.
especially in the Black community, of like we just help people out and we help our family
Mhm.
out. And this is just kind of like we're just helping out kind of thing,
Right.
which through my time being on Caregiver Talk, have learned that that's just kind of the early stages of caregiving. So
Right.
the time where I was like, okay, I don't see a lot of this kind of content in general. And I think sometimes that can make just the caregiving journey very isolating, where you know that there's other people taking care of their family members, but it's not always talked about, or um, people don't know what to share or how to share it. And I really hadn't at that point heard of any grandkids that were primary caregivers. So I was like,
Mhm.
you know what? It's time to just kind of share kind of what my journey looks like, and meet other people like yourself and some other content creators to really get some more information, share something if it's helpful for somebody else. And hopefully, more people are kind of inspired in some ways to take care of their grandparents or family members, or step in ways that they're able to play to
Mhm.
their strengths, things like that.
Well, I really love that, like you said, your story is not unique, but rare, especially in the space, in the online space to be talked about. I did just while you were talking to do it, just a quick search. In 2025, it says there are 18% of family caregivers are grandchildren for their grandparents. I think that's only going to be more significant as you know this huge generation ages. And so I think it's really important that we do get as many stories out into the caregiving community as we can about different ways that the caregiving role takes shape. In your case, you're the grandchild, a tremendous, you're a primary caregiver, but you have a multi-generational situation where your parents are also involved in the care. But then there's going to be other grandchildren that are literally the only one available, the only one there. And so they are going to have that role as well. So I think it's very important to bring these voices into the community and lift them up. So I'm so glad that you're sharing your journey, and I know it's going to help a lot of people. And I feel like even if, like I'm not even in a caregiving role right now, and I still find benefit from watching other caregivers share their stories like you. So like I appreciate that. How do you decide what to share and what not to share? Cuz there's a lot.
Yeah. That's definitely something that I think about a lot, actually. There's some family dynamics that you have to realize that it might not be for social media,
Right.
just for uh I mean, you're going to be the one that ends up having to live with the consequences, good or bad, of sharing things so publicly online. But I think my main driver for what I post versus what I don't post is just making sure that I'm upholding dignity for my loved ones as much as I can. So,
Mhm.
something that my family has talked about before is, if it's not something that I'm sharing to everyone, or that I'd be comfortable with sharing on social media, then we're not going to share it.
Yeah, right. Right.
So things like certain diagnoses without consent and things like that is something that I think about. But it really is just making sure that I'm focused on dignity and what they would like. And I also try to involve them as much as I can with my content.
Mhm.
So that's memories again making, and then also just making sure that they're involved and consenting to the information that's being put out online about them.
Yeah. I love that you said that because you brought up two important things. One, you're actually discussing the fact that you're sharing, not that they wouldn't find it anyway,
Yeah.
but like you're actually discussing the fact that you're sharing content about your caregiving journey with your family members, and that is an extra layer of protection for you, protection for your family. Like you say, just another way to show your intentional nature and that dignity. And of course, I think also that effort to uphold the dignity of not just your grandparents, but your own dignity, and having that collaboration with your family is so important. For me, when I was sharing my content, there was so much going on with my mom, honestly. I would not have known where to start in talking about her journey in her health. So she had done that as long as she could. She shared her own journey as a person with the disease she had and what she was going through. So when I started sharing my journey, I really tried to separate what I was going through
Mhm.
from what she was going through because I wanted to share my story and let her continue to share hers as long as possible. And so I was able to keep more stuff. I would mention like her diagnosis or, like we were in the hospital a ton or whatever. But it was more about like the emotional part of caregiving that I was lugging along during the thing. And so I think having some intention with what you're sharing um, is important, and it helps provide some guardrails for you. Like if you're not sure, you're like, well, does it fall into this category? Is this about me or is this, about, or and also like how will this help other people? Am I just like getting it out? And maybe I'm not, for people who are listening, like, I like a good rant. Hey, that may be enough. Like you might say, I need to rant, and I hope somebody else hears it and knows they're not alone when they feel like ranting. That's not the point. But like you have to be intentional enough to think about like, how is this gonna I'm throwing this into the interwebs.
Mhm.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
Right? What do I want? What is my intention with doing it? And then of course, sometimes we have good intentions and bad things happen, but we can try our best on the front end, right? So I love that you do that. So you're sharing not only your journey, but also things that you're learning along the way. So a lot of times I feel like like I saw one thing that you created, like these are like burnout tips or something. I was like, she went through something and now she's sharing what she learned. But in addition to sharing that you are also learning from other people, other caregiver content creators. And so I wonder if you want to let us know if there's anything that sticks out to you that you've learned from the caregiver community on TikTok, for example.
Yeah. I think something that I'm really starting to learn, or this is kind of my season of learning and accepting that, is just making sure that I'm balancing as much as I can with connecting to myself and what
Mm,
needs I have or what needs I need to support or attend to. So I had another creator who's also in their early 30s, caregiving, wanting to just ask me how I'm doing,
mm,
genuinely asking how I'm doing and how I pour into myself and things like
yeah.
that. I think that's something that I've learned is easily missed, and something that I have to work on.
Yeah.
Especially just being a primary caregiver. It's not new, it's not unique, but I think it's something that I definitely have to consider and
Hmm.
remember what I need to do so then I'm able to fully show up in the times that I need to.
This is not on our notes, so
Yeah.
I'm just throwing this out at you.
Good.
But it made me think when you were talking about that, when another caregiver reaches out to you and asks, like, how are you doing? Are you taking care of yourself? What are you doing? How are you, you know, does that hit you different than some random person like saying to you, like, be sure to take care of yourself? And of course, my question is loaded because you can tell I have one opinion. I have an opinion.
Yeah.
So my opinion is, or like not my opinion, the way I always felt like I'm much more receptive to hearing another caregiver ask me how I'm doing and what I'm doing for myself than I am a random, person that I encounter in the world, in the neighbor or something. If they don't, if I don't know, if I feel like if you're a caregiver and you're asking me that, that like I'm doing the best I can.
Yes.
I'm not, so I don't know if you feel the same way or if it maybe I'm just
100%. It's like there's this kind of community shared experience, understanding that you have when you're asking that question. I just feel like it comes from a different space.
yeah.
So I definitely am more receptive to it. And I also think about kind of what what I'm putting out there in the world when those questions are asked. I'm
You're
like,
like, "Do
oh,
I look frazzled and exhausted?"
I look exhausted. My last 4 or TikToks look like I am rolling out of bed and just went through 5 different
Yeah.
appointments.
Yeah. Need to use a different filter. Yeah.
Right?
Let me find a better filter. Well, and not this is not advice, but one of the things that I found when sharing my content was the more I tried to balance between like, here's the content that I'm creating, like I'm setting up my thing and I'm going to record something. And I've just spent 24 hours in the emergency room and I'm just coming to let you know that if you've ever done this and you've been exhausted, da, 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 like, and having people see me somewhat unfiltered, literally
Yeah.
and figuratively, um, is served me well as a caregiver. I feel like sometimes, when the content is too polished or it's like, well, you have enough time to get all gussied up.
Yeah.
Must be nice. I haven't had a bath in a week, like,
Yeah.
it's like, so I feel like there's a good, having that, the raw sometimes, and like at the time that I was doing a lot of that content, I was also trying to tell people to take care of themselves. So I started addressing like, what does that mean
Yeah.
when you have spent 24 hours in the ER? Like, what does that look like versus the normal day?
Yeah.
And how, it is different.
Yeah.
And some days it means I look more like this, and other days it means I look more like, I'm going on a date night.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's really good.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But yeah, when you were saying that, I was like, yeah, I wonder if she has the same feeling I do. Like, don't come at me if you haven't spent a minute in these shoes. Like, I don't want
I'm
to
like,
hear it.
you ate breakfast this morning very calmly with your coffee and then all
Yes.
that. Like, I'm running out the door.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna have anything other than like a protein bar, maybe.
Right. Right.
It's just one of those.
Exactly. Exactly. There was so much time, like, I remember having like just random stuff stashed everywhere, like in the house, in my mom's house, and on my car, just everywhere. Just we would open up like a bag to put something in it, and there would already be like the stuff in it from last time. Because we
Yeah.
were just like always like, we don't want to be caught off guard and don't have not have a protein bar. So yeah, I get that. It's so funny. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that in your family you have different people show up with different strengths and you try to utilize those to the fullest. One of the things that you mentioned was your brother's aptitude and enjoyment of technology.
Yeah.
And so I did want to talk about tech for a little bit. What role does technology play in your current at how things are currently working in your caregiving journey, and what are you looking forward to, or what are you hoping for in that care tech space?
Yeah. It's definitely something that, as far as the care tech side, that I'm still learning about and getting more information. I think right now I'm really using it for kind of general organization. Like my grandparents really needed to be on a calendar situation where we can all access. That's another way that we're able to stay on the same page, is having a shared calendar. So those are kind of lower tech
Right.
solutions, but have high impact in my family.
Mhm.
I think I've also used Notion. It was really helpful for kind of creating databases to not only for like content creation, for example, but for health and wellness caregiving things.
Mhm.
So I have my running list that is never ending.
Yeah.
um, I have some of their documents and things like that. But
Mhm.
what I'm most looking forward to is solutions for kind of like caregiver EMRs, electronic medical records. I think that is something that will bloom, which
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
Making sure that we're able to track and trend weight and blood
Mhm.
pressure, and having a space to put notes from doctor's appointments, and
Mhm.
also have your power of attorneys easily accessible. So that is something I'm also looking forward to. Different AI solutions for checking in with them when I'm not able to
Mhm.
So that's something that my brother's working on and
Mhm.
experimenting with for sure. But those are kind of the areas that I'm really into.
Yeah, it's really interesting and such an important space for innovators and you know these entrepreneurs that want to start new companies. That's a great thing for them to be looking into because there is such a need, but also balancing that privacy piece of, yeah, I want a place I can upload my documents, but I also want to make sure that not, any Joe Schmo can take a look at it, like or not every member needs to have, not every family member needs to have access to every single document or every single bit of information. So how do we navigate that? And there are already some good, at least one company that I'm aware of. They are not a sponsor, but it's the Kaylee app, and they're working on that balance between keeping everyone in the loop, keeping everything where you need it, tracking those symptoms and activities of daily living, but also making sure that the information stays where it needs to, it doesn't get out. And so I think that is going to be the biggest key in the care tech space, is to make sure that as caregivers, it is easy for us to know that we can trust
Mhm.
our family's personal and medical information
Yeah.
with them, and because we're desperate for it, right? And so please give it to us, but also, we carry a tremendous amount of responsibility and accountability, and perhaps even guilt. That's one of the things I talk about. And so we're hesitant to make a decision on using a new tool if we're not 100% sure that the benefit is going to outweigh any risk. And so I think that's going to be the key to the care tech space coming on. But I'm with you. We need the support. We welcome new innovative ideas. And I don't know about you, but like you said, your brother's working on something right now. But I hope that companies that are seeking to build supports for caregivers will reach out to us. We're on TikTok, guys. We're hanging out over there. We're all there. We're telling everything. We're telling you exactly what we need and want. Come talk to us because we've got ideas too. I think together we can create a care tech community that is going to be beneficial for everyone, the companies and caregivers. Anyway, that's my soapbox for today. But Jazmyn, I know. I could keep talking to you forever. Probably going to have you back on soon because I've already come up with more ideas for episodes as we've been talking today. But is there anything else you want to share with people? I want you to share how they can follow you on TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely. So nothing huge, but I would say follow me. I'm on TikTok and Instagram right now, just it's an easy thing. But my handle is stay at home grandbaby. So you can find us.
Stay at home, grandbaby. I love it. I love a good handle.
Yeah.
And Jazmyn, I'll have everybody connect with you. I'll put it in the show notes. And I look forward to continuing these conversations about multi-generational care, caregiving community, and then of course, care tech as well. Thank you so much, Jazmyn. And thank you for joining me today on the From Guilt to Good podcast. To access additional caregiver resources, to connect with Jazmyn and me, or to support our show, check out our show notes, connect with us on social, and we will see you again soon. We are changing the conversation around caregiving one episode at a time.